Hi everyone, welcome to the Earth Science Regions Review podcast series created by Hammock's Middle School Earth Science Department. Today we're going to focus our attention on page 8 in the reference table, your geologic history chart. Now this is going to be coupled with another podcast on page 9 in the reference table as well, and together they're going to be used literally simultaneously. So let's focus on the very far left corner, of your chart here. And we're going to first start out with the time unit called an eon, which is the biggest unit of time. Next to the eon, before we actually get into that, is a time scale that starts out basically from the bottom to top of 4,600 and extends all the way up to 0. That's all in millions of years. That's essentially the history of our Earth from 4.6 billion years ago to the current time. Now, our eons are broken up into two specific eons. You have the Precambrian, and the Precambrian is actually the biggest unit of time that we have. It's about 85% of our history. It's such a big unit of time, you have to break it up into two sub-eons. So the older eon is the Precambrian. Precambrian is broken up into the Archean and the Proterozoic. Above the Precambrian, you have an eon called the Phanerozoic, in which we currently live in today. This chart's read from bottom to top. Current time is right at the top of this chart. Now, when you look at some of the characteristics that have taken place in the early Precambrian or the early Archean, the estimated time of origin of the Earth and solar system, oldest known rocks, evidence of biological carbon, earliest stromatolites, oceanic oxygen produced by cyanobacteria, all that took place in basically the Archean part of the Precambrian. Above that is the Proterozoic. The Proterozoic, a couple other things took place. Oceanic oxygen begins to enter the atmosphere and the first sexually reproducing organisms. Once you get through the Precambrian, about 550 million years ago, then the Phanerozoic began, which is the current eon that we live in. Now the next unit of time is going to be an era. Eons are broken up into eras. We have 4 basic eras. Because the Precambrian is such a big unit of time, it's not only an eon, it's also an era. So the Precambrian is also its own era as well. Above that is the Phanerozoic eras of the Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic. Next to the eras, you're going to have a smaller unit of time called the periods. And your periods are going to be important here because these are going to be the time units that really get tested on. And starting at the very bottom, you have the Precambrian. Again, the Precambrian is not only an eon, it's an era and a period. You have the Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Carboniferous, Permian, Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, Paleogene, Neogene, and Quaternary. Again, that's from oldest to youngest to the top of the chart. Now, your periods now are broken up into even a smaller unit of time called an epoch. Now, most of your epochs you'll see are early, middle, late, all the way through this. So from the Cambrian all the way through the Cretaceous, you'll see early, middle, late. But if you notice, the Cenozoic era, the epochs that are in the Cenozoic era actually have names on them. Paleocene, Eocene, Oligocene, Miocene, Pliocene, Pleistocene, and Holocene. Those are very important epochs, very simply because they deal with such a small unit of time, we can actually give individual beginning and ending times of those epochs, and we can actually put names onto them as well. Now, what's important here is to be able to also understand different time units. You'll see that periods and eras and eons and epochs all begin and end with a beginning time and ending time. So specifically, if you notice at the time frame, let's just take the Cambrian for instance. The bottom of the box for the Cambrian is when it began. The top of the box of the Cambrian is when it ended. So the Cambrian started 542 million years ago and ended 488 million years ago, because you're reading this from bottom to top. Well, if you subtract those two numbers, you can tell how long that specific time unit lasted. The Devonian began 416 million years ago and ended 359 million years ago. You can take a look at the Cretaceous. Started 146 million years ago and ended 65.5 million years ago. So really important to be able to identify different time units themselves. So what's important here is definitely to understand that the Precambrian is not only an eon, it's an era, it's a period, and an epoch. Very important for you to understand and to recognize the Paleozoic periods. Very important for you to identify the Mesozoic periods and the Cenozoic periods as well.